Interface Video presents Fairhope Hospice Today. Brought to you by Fairhope Hospice and Palliative Care, Fairfield Federal Savings and Loan, Fairfield Medical Center, the Fairfield County Board of Developmental Disabilities, Dagger Law, and the Frank E. Smith Funeral Home.
Welcome to Fairhope Hospice Today. I'm Kristin Glazier, President and CEO at Fairhope Hospice and Palliative Care, home of the Pickering House. And today we have a really special segment for you. Past year, we've celebrated our 40th anniversary, and as we step into 2025, we really wanted to take the opportunity to show you a really special segment that we were able to film last year. You're going to see our founding fathers. They're going to talk to you about the history and the beginnings of Fairhope. Enjoy. So I think the first thing was, let's talk a little bit about how VNA kind of worked its way into the discussion with hospice.
Okay, well, thanks, Kristin. Well, VNA had an interesting start. It was mainly by Grace Hollis, and she was the wife of Dr. Bob Hollis. And I got to know him pretty well because they were my next door neighbors in Bremen, and Bob started out his practice in Bremen. Well, Grace worked with him in the office and saw a need for some nursing outside of the office in there. So she came over and we talked a long time. As a matter of fact, Grace did her nursing program a little bit after that. In fact, she was a student of mine at Ohio University when she got started. So when that need came up, we did some talking, a lot of talking as a matter of fact. And at that time, it was in the early 70s, we started our visiting nurse program. It was an interesting start because it was kind of a brand new thing. And we had 4 members on our board of the visiting nurses. It was Harold Shore, that was Biter and Flaky Drugs, and George Cohen, who's the attorney, June Whetstone, who was the wife of Dr. Bob at Pleasantville, yeah, and myself. And I was treasurer, George was secretary, June was president, I think, and Harold was vice president. So that's kind of the way we got started. Office space was problematic, and Kristin, I think you're involved in some of these. Some of these offices that we had were real rat traps back in the early days. We had, back at that time, 2 nurses, Donna Seifert Householder, who graduated with me from Bremen, and Carolyn Fisher from Riceville, Lowell's wife. Lowell ran the garage up in Riceville there. And those were the gals that went out and got started. It was a really interesting start on that sort of thing. And the offices moved from place to place. One time we were down there in the Kroger lot, that office down there at that point, and that was kind of the transitional stage. And then transitioned Donna and Carolyn were doing a lot of doing actually all the nursing that we were doing at that program. And they started in doing some cancer care and that sort of thing.
And taught me about hospice because I never heard of it, didn't know anything about it. Sounded like a good program, and she needed a medical director. So she said, you are the medical director. And I said, well, I'll do what I can do. And I was the medical director till Jerry Roche came.
Oh, yeah.
And that was just strictly hospice is what we were involved with. We weren't going to build anything. They weren't talking about it. But
so what was the first step that you had to take when you knew you were Grace said, let's do this hospice idea, and then you were on board. So then what was that next step to start?
I had to get certified.
Get certified, yes.
That's right. That was the next step.
So in 1984, we were one of the first 4 hospices in Ohio to get certified for Medicare.
Correct.
Was that a lot of work?
That's correct.
George Cohen approached me originally, same Gordon, and he's the one who introduced me to a hospice. But George did a lot of the work regarding the legal areas.
Yeah.
Right.
He was a prominent attorney here in town.
Yeah, all the corporation and that sort of thing. Sure, if you got the papers there, it's got George's name on it.
Absolutely, it does. Yeah.
I was trying to think on the original board. I was there. I think Dave was, Frank Smith, and George Cohen. I think that was the original board.
So this says the Hospice and Health Services of Fairfield County, minutes of the members' first meeting, January 12th, 1984.
That sounds right.
You're right.
And that was John Boffman,
Okay.
everybody that you mentioned, Dr. Dunbar, Sharon Conkle,
Oh,
Okay, I
yeah.
remember
John
Sharon.
Bowling,
Yeah, he was a physician here in
Dr.
town.
Bowling, yeah.
Gail McCreary,
Okay.
Don Wheeler, Frank Smith, and then D. Mowry. So yeah, that looks like that might have been the first official board meeting.
Grace was the driving force.
Yeah,
Oh,
she was behind
absolutely.
all of it.
Yeah.
How long was Grace involved then?
Till,
Well, not real long, because once it got started, Donna Householder took over.
well.
And Grace
well,
was just
Grace
more
is-
with visiting
I don't-
nurses.
She felt comfortable things were going in the right direction.
I remember she called me one time, I want you to come over and talk to me at the office, so I spent a couple hours at the office. She wanted to make things clear before we really had our board meeting and moving in with hospice at that time, so.
Yes.
Laying the groundwork, at least with me and
Wow,
on the board.
I would have liked to have met her.
Great lady.
She was a good gal.
So what happened then? We were in that little corner office there on East Main Street with V&A. Then where did we move from there? Did we go on East Main Street? We talked about the Center of Hope, by Annie's Cheesecake, Annie's Cheesecake. Where did we go after we were in that office?
Over in that Kroger parking lot there,
Yeah,
next to where the
Vanity cleaners.
Behind
Vanity
the
Cleaners
cleaners.
is.
Yeah.
That's where, yeah.
So what was in the Center of Hope? You talked about a little thrift store somewhere?
Yes, yeah, that was, our CEO was Paul, I think, started that.
Yes.
So Paul
Okay.
Longenecker.
Yes. Yes.
So how
So it was a
long-
fundraiser, the idea was to raise money and
Well, it
augment.
was after Donna, when Donna was the CEO, and
I
then
think
she
she did
retired.
took
She
over.
retired, and
Yeah.
that's when Paul,
Yeah.
Yeah, Donna
came
was
on.
great, she was really,
And that was, after Paul, then Denise came in, which really was the one that, she was the one that got things moving, so. But then EC came on, and EC was he was a good guy and a good fundraiser, an excellent Shriner, too.
he was a
by the
big
way.
force with hospice.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, yes,
know.
yeah. And I think Bonnie still supports,
She absolutely does.
Yeah.
I had
Yeah.
the pleasure of having lunch with her.
and
so.
she supports the Lad and Shrine Hospital Association for Children, which I'm president of right now, but EC was always very, very good
I
with
remember
that, so.
him very well.
So can we talk about the names? So it was Hospice and Health Services of Fairfield County, then Hospice of Fairfield County, and then we had Hospice of Hocking County. So we can't forget Hocking County in all of this. Do you guys remember how that all came about?
We got Perry County in there, too.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Yeah,
Perry.
that's where the
so yeah,
Hope
so
came
it was
from.
That's where,
associated with Hocking County and then side of Pear County, and so it was Fair for Fairfield, Hope for
Hocking.
OHO
Hocking.
for, and PE for Perry.
so that's where all those three counties came
Yeah.
with the name Fairhope Hospice.
I don't know who did it. I don't know who.
That was Paul's idea.
That was Paul.
That was Paul.
Or somebody on his staff, really.
came up with the
because I'll
idea.
tell you, every time I go speak, I'll say, "What does anybody know where Fairhope came from?" When I
Yeah.
tell them, and I'll say, "I wish I knew who came up with that."
Yeah, it's a triple county. That was the whole key. We wanted to include
First
it.
of Fair.
And,
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah.
So-
That came later, though, once they were.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Just,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That was a
Yeah.
few years later,
just
really.
before we
back-
started to think
Yeah.
That was
about
after Donna retired, so.
Yeah.
Well, when I
And
was
then-
here, I'm pretty sure it was still Hospice and Health, or Hospice of Fairfield County.
It probably
Right.
was, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So can we talk, Dr. Snider, can we talk about you? So you stepped in as the medical director.
For a short while.
Okay, and then what? And
Well,
then Dr. Roach?
Dr. Roche came,
Okay,
and Dr. Roche was an oncologist and knew exactly what to do about people who were dying, and so he was ideal, and he had that position for a long time.
Yeah, Jerry was
Yeah.
super.
yes.
Really helped us a lot in understanding into death and so on, and the process. And worked a lot with the nurses, of course, too, that were going out in the field. And of course, but that's not, we didn't have Pickering House, of course, at that
Right.
time.
It's very
And Gordon was really behind the Pickering House because he knew Virginia very well.
Well, let me tell you, I know about that. The board, and you guys are on the board hired a company that built hospice houses, buildings. And it started out at a cost, and it kept going up till $9 million. And then the board found out they couldn't raise that kind of money, so they went poof. And they said, we don't, you remember that?
Yeah.
We can't afford to do
Couldn't
that.
do it.
Well, I kept thinking, this project is too good to let die. So I talked to Leonard Gorsuch, and I asked him on the phone, could I come down and talk to you about this building that we're projected to build for hospice? And he said, yeah, I'll come down and look at it. So I bought everything we had, the plans that the other company had left and so forth, and went down, and he looked it over, and he spent a week or two with his folks studying what they could do it for. And he said, what's the most amount of money you can raise? And I said, well, I know we have some already devoted to the building, and I think it was something like 10,000, something like that. And then also, that's about right. But they thought they could borrow enough to get it up maybe to 25,000. So I asked Leonard how much it was going to cost. He said, well, how much can you raise? And I said, well, I don't know. I have to talk to somebody. So I talked to David, he's an accountant for Virginia. And I said, do you mind if I talk to her about making a big donation to hospice to build the building? He said, yeah, you can talk to her. So I got her in the car one day. We were out taking a drive, and I said, how would you be interested in making a significant donation to hospice to build this building that we need in the 3 counties? And she said, well, I'd consider it. And I said, would you like to have the naming rights? And she said, yeah, that'd be nice if I did that. And so she said, how much will it cost to have the naming rights? And I said, $1 million. She said, well, yeah, I think I could do that. And I said, well, I'll sweeten the deal. I'll take care of you the rest of your life. You'll never have another doctor bill. So that's how we got the money. And we told Leonard then that we could do it for about $25,000, or I mean $250,000. And they did it, and they didn't make a dime. And they built this wonderful building, and Leonard, you can't give him enough praise for what they did.
A lot to Leonard and the company.
Yeah, they did a lot.
And
Originally, the plans were for out on the bypass at 188. Yeah. Carolyn Fisher's brother had donated the land out there.
Yes, that's right.
And then we decided that might not be the best place. And then this property here was owned by Al Moody. Mm-hmm. And Al was retiring and wanted to move back to Springfield, where he was from. And I said, well, would you be interested? And then I think he struck a pretty good deal to buy this.
We got 37 acres, I believe.
Yes. The staff that have been here know what it takes. They've been on the other side. They see what it takes to make someone comfortable, to make the family comfortable, and really what kind of support they need. And so I think that's what really makes Fairhope what it is.
The Frankie Smith Funeral Home and Crematory in Lancaster and the Johnson Smith Funeral Home in Baltimore have a long and wonderful history of serving our community. Feel free to give us a call at 740-653-0652. Stop in and see us at either of our 2 locations, 405 North Columbus Street in Lancaster and 207 South Main Street in Baltimore. Respect for tradition, regard for change.
If you've been thinking about getting a home loan, now is the time. Hi, this is Carrie James from Fairfield Federal. Our experienced lenders are here to help you make your vision a reality. For more than 125 years, we've been helping our community achieve home ownership. Fairfield Federal has convenient online application for your home loan, home equity loan, and home equity line of credit needs. Visit fairfieldfederal.com to get started. Fairfield Federal for checking, savings, and home loans. Data charges may apply, subject to credit approval. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS number 402612.
Dagger Law has more than 110 years of experience in nearly every aspect of the law. When we're not just helping clients, we're helping the community. You'll see us at festivals, sporting events, and around town because we live and work here too. We are your neighbors, and we want to help you when you need it. When we help each other, we're stronger. Our community is stronger. Creating a strong, vibrant, healthy, and safe community is everyone's responsibility, and we take the responsibility seriously. We are local. We are trusted. We are experienced.
Managing your health can feel scary, but you are not alone. At Fairfield Medical Center, our network of healthcare professionals and compassionate caregivers are focused on one thing: supporting you. From primary care to specialty procedures and rehabilitation, we offer the resources you need to lead the life you love. Whatever you're searching for, you can find it at Fairfield Medical Center.
Welcome back to Fairhope Hospice Today. I'm Kristin Glazier, President and CEO of Fairhope Hospice and Palliative Care. Here for our second segment this afternoon, you are watching the founding fathers of Fairhope. We have been celebrating our 40th year, and we hope you enjoy the segment.
I think it's interesting also that how long Gordon worked for us at hospice as a physician, and you were with it. When did you leave, actually? Wasn't too long ago, about 4 or 5 years ago?
Well, I wasn't doing much for hospice except being here on Tuesday and review board, and I think I quit doing that, a couple of years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, but how many years were you here when we got started, though?
Well, for
many years you were here.
Yeah.
And then you came back, so you were medical director, Dr. Roach stepped in, and then at some point you came back and Denise hired you to come back, and then you were here with us every Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
For our TV.
Right.
So he was a big part of hospice, Fairhope Hospice.
Absolutely.
And right from the beginning, before the beginning.
And let's talk about the board. So you guys were on the board forever, the two of you.
Well, yes, both of us.
Yes.
Since 1984.
84 until.
And then you stepped away right when I started as vice president, so that's a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And who was the president after that?
After me, John.
John
was
son.
in, yeah.
Your son.
Yeah.
We used to rotate presidents. The board would, Frank Smith would take it for a couple years, and I'd take it for a couple years. And
I'd be vice president.
Marc Miller would always be the vice president, and
I'm still on the board.
You are back. You're readmitted to the board.
That is a rotation that we do too.
Yes.
That's part of it, being on the board.
I mean, do you guys think it's really interesting, because when we think about how Fairhope and Hospice of Fairfield County started, and all the pieces, all the people that were involved in that, and here we are 40 years later, and you guys are still sitting here at some level involved. I mean, that's pretty incredible.
you pretty much think of all the 40 years, there's barely been 1, 2, 3. You're the fourth. There would have been Donna Householder, and then Paul Longenecker, and then Denise,
and then Kristin,
and then you.
Yeah, true.
Well, I think it's the devotion, because we're all so proud of what they've done, and this building, and how it's all worked out. It's just kind of hard to leave.
But what do you guys see? Like, what do you see in the future for us?
Well, number one, we have to expand. Building-wise, we're going to have to be expanding. So we still rely on a lot of our fundraisers. That's a very important part. All the different things we have. So I think that's an important issue. Is that we,
So what year did we open this building? I can't remember.
2007 was the first patient.
In the building?
Yes.
Is that right? Yeah.
and of course, we work very close with Fairfield Medical Center. And that's been throughout the years. That was very important, of course, to get those referrals and so on.
That really has been such a strong partnership for all of those years.
Very much so.
It's really probably gotten us to where we are, today. And now the Pickering House,
Well, I think part of that too, the visiting nurses merged with the Fairfield Medical Center.
Yes.
We folded that up, so that came into that too, so.
What was it? Didn't Fairfield Medical Center own visiting nurses at some point?
Yes.
Yes, they did.
Okay, so kind of all tied together.
Yeah, I was on that board when we did that. And it was an interesting transition.
Yeah.
Mr. McKelvey was supportive.
Yeah, Joe
of
was
the program.
very much so. Joe
He was the
McKelvey,
administrator then.
CEO of the hospital.
CEO at the
back
hospital.
in the 80s.
He was very much in favor of hospice. And we had some records too. Everyone in Ohio Health wanted to come down and talk to us about
Merging or buying
merging with us or buying with us. And it was very important to our board right from the beginning that this is going to be an independent. And we were not going to merge
I
with
think
any other
that's
large facility.
very
And
wise.
still much so.
And of all the places that have an inpatient hospice, the Pickering House, and at the time there was here when we built this, and Colbacher House up in, I don't know any of the others, there's many others around.
There are, go ahead.
Well, I remember we kind of patterned this after Colmacher. That was one of the board thought that was a very good thing, and I knew it by experience that it was a good place, and we needed it, and so that's how.
And now we're really planning a big palliative care program down the line, and that's another big issue coming up.
It
and
is. That's the next phase of growth and
that's
vision.
where we're going to have to
where
make.
we're headed.
Yes, that's going to be a big issue in raising funds and so on.
Well, what else? What else are you guys thinking? Give me some funny stories.
Tell me, whose idea was it to have your little spot down the path and that little place you go down and take a look? That came later.
That was Denise, I think.
Denise,
did
I
that,
believe.
We just looked at that footage yesterday, 2012. Yeah, so Denise was there. I can't remember who was all around us.
But a lot of patients' families donated money for certain things, and that's how a lot of those issues come in.
I think Nauman's did for that because they were all there present for that ribbon cutting.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, 'cause I remember, back there, because when my kids were growing up, I don't live too far away, and our kids used to play over here, and they called it Moody's Woods. And they always talk about Moody's waterfalls back there.
Who was Mr. Moody?
Al Moody was he worked for a general contractor. He was a contracting manager. And they built all these apartments down here over the hill, okay? They did them all over the state. And he was getting ready to retire, and they built those down there, and he wanted to retire, and they'd bought this whole land here, his company, and he went to his, whoever owned the company and said, I want to retire, that's such a beautiful spot, can I get a deal to buy this land, and I'm going to build my house there and retire here.
And he did.
And he did.
Yeah.
And then who approached him about buying this, or did he come to us, or how did
No,
that
we went
to him. I kind of went to him, and because I knew he was getting ready to retire and wanted to move back to Springfield because he was having health issues. His wife was having health issues, and
Of course, that building's still there.
It is.
the house, yeah.
Is it being used now at all?
It's not. It's
No.
not. It's used. We've got some stuff in the garage, but we don't have anybody staying there.
I think to mention to this Pickering house that we have deer come right up to the windows, and it's so wonderful for a lot of patients. And I heard a story one time that the nurse had told us on the board, maybe you remember it better than me, that they took a patient outside in a wheelchair, but there was a fawn came right up next to her and she put her hand out on top. Maybe you remember that. Put her hand right on top of the fawn, and she sat up and spoke, and it just made a big change in her life. But it wasn't very long after that. I think an hour or two later she died.
Wow.
But it's just one of the stories we have here, with the deer and the setting that we have, and what a beautiful place. And that's what we wanted. That's how Virginia Pickering wanted it too.
Yeah, right. And that was a good idea to feed the deer, and you still do, don't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, right. My grandchildren were here when my son-in-law died, and they thought that was spectacular. What's that?
We kind of take that for granted every day, but boy, I'll tell you, we have families that come in, they want to be in the back. We can put, you guys were so thoughtful in the planning of this and the land, because we can move those beds so they can see and just watch the deer and the birds. We have volunteers that fill the bird feeders a couple times a week, and the birds come to that. The deer, obviously the squirrel do, but
I might mention too, on our board we do have representatives from Perry County as well as Hocking, and just not Fairfield. So that's important to us to keep that part of our board.
Right.
Yeah, and we haven't really talked too much about Hocking County, but we've been in Hocking County for 26 years, and you kind of forget that we've had an office there in different places.
It's right downtown.
Yeah, right downtown.
Well, I think also sometimes it's difficult for patients when you tell them, or you mention the word hospice. Sometimes they think, well, this is the end. I'm done. And of course, with palliative care, that's not true. And we had to spread that word a lot down in Perry County and Hocking County.
Right.
And it's not just for us here in Fairfield County. And so that was something we had to sort of overcome with sort of a stigma that people have.
That's a work in progress every
It
day.
is all the time.
Did you guys ever think that we'd end up 40 years later like this?
I don't know how you could envision that.
Yeah, I was going to
you
say,
had to be here to see it happen.
Big vision at that time. You couldn't begin to.
Yeah, and the vision of having this, and I must, Paul, that was Paul's initial. He was the one that thought we really had to have an inpatient facility. We really needed. We really
Paul
needed
really
it.
pushed
And
that.
Who? And
Paul Longendecker.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, is that right?
Longendecker, yeah.
Well, he
And
was
then,
right.
And then Denise really
Jumped on the bandwagon
jumped on
with that one.
and got it going.
Well, I think the Kobacher House was the reason, because everybody in Franklin County and thereabouts were going to Kobacher House, and I think that was an example that we followed, and I think it's really worked out well.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you guys want to talk about?
Well, being on the board for, I don't know, probably 36, 37 years, and it's been very rewarding to see the evolution, and couldn't be more happier to, what a great thing to spend your volunteer time on. Couldn't have been better use of my time.
Dave and I were a real team together while we were on the hospice board. We worked a lot together in projects and so on. But I think I'm still on the board, and what's interesting to me is we're making progress now. I mean, we're thinking of new things and new envisions of what we want to do. So that's what's exciting to me, to still see where we're going from here.
Thank you. Dr. Snider?
Well, I'm very proud of Virginia, what she did, and for Leonard, and how much that he did as well, and for all you people who've been on the board a long time, and for you, Denise, and you now doing fine. I'm just so proud of all of it. That's just wonderful.
And I'd echo what Gordon said, because I'm probably the fossil on this board going clear back to the 70s when we started visiting nurses, but see the evolution of what's happened. It's really amazing in here. You guys are doing a good job. Keep it up. If you don't, we'll get you.
I know.
Well, thank you.
And also that if it wouldn't have been for Gordon Snider approaching Leonard and approaching Virginia Pickering,
Those two.
this would never be here.
That's right.
Yeah.
Gordon was behind all that.
You got to play golf with these people.
That's key. He played a lot of golf with
That's
them.
what I'm missing out, right? Hi, I'm Kristin Glazier, and you've been watching a really special segment of our founding fathers at Fairhope. Last year, we had celebrated our 40th year anniversary, and so we really wanted to take the time just to show you how Fairhope came to be and how we've been so strong in the community for many years. We really want to show you moving forward in 2025 what we've built and where we're headed. So stay tuned next month. Thank you for joining us on Fairhope Hospice Today.
Interface Video presents Fairhope Hospice Today. Brought to you by Fairhope Hospice and Palliative Care, Fairfield Federal Savings and Loan, Fairfield Medical Center, the Fairfield County Board of Developmental Disabilities, Dagger Law, and the Frank E. Smith Funeral Home.